if you thought the Jaylen Brown Team USA beef was over, you would be sorely mistaken, my friend, sorely. And it reared its ugly head once again over the weekend, and also over the weekend found out that maybe Jaylen Brown isn't the only one who is part of the world champs who has a gripe or a legitimate gripe with Team USA basketball. But this all stems from Grant Hill being asked in an interview by Dan Patrick on Friday. It must have been Friday. It wouldn't have been Saturday. But I think it all kind of came out on Saturday with the Jaylen Brown tweet. But Dan Patrick is interviewing Grant Hill and asks him once again about the decision to pick Derek White over Jaylen Brown. This was one that I think caught me by surprise when it first happened, way a while ago, earlier in the month, because I was like, oh yeah, Derek White, that's awesome. And then I was like, oh, that's right, Jaylen Brown isn't on the team. And that was one that was like, I mean, Jaylen Brown's coming off playing some of the best basketball of his life. Like, he's in his prime right now. And this is what Grant Hill had to say. I spoke to Brown's agent. I don't know if that was before or after things went out on Twitter, but yeah, I think the idea that there's a conspiracy theory, I always love a good conspiracy theory, but it truly was a basketball decision, and these are tough decisions. And Jaylen Brown picked something out of that he really did not like. So Jaylen Brown takes to Twitter, as he usually does. This is like old school. This feels like throwback like 5 years ago when people would just take to Twitter. It felt like we went away from that a little bit, but Jaylen Brown is keeping that alive. He goes on Twitter, says, Grant Hill calling me a conspiracy theorist is disappointing. I've been a VP since I was 21 years old. I have a great understanding. And the biggest problem with this is there's no punctuation in the whole tweet. Jaylen Brown's a really smart guy. Trust me, no one will let you forget it. There needs to be some punctuation in there. But Brown was clearly pretty pissed to hear that Grant Hill calls it, the whole thing, a conspiracy theory. And once again, like with this whole saga, there's just been like one thing where I'm like, yeah, I'm on this side. And then I hear something else and I'm like, oh, but also, can we stop with this? And this happens again. So first off, I want to ask you, why is Dan Patrick still doing this? Like, everyone get to ask Grant Hill the question, and Grant Hill was pretty open about it whenever the decision was made. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, like, he was pretty open and talked about it. And I think a lot of us didn't like the answer. Like, it didn't excuse that, but he did, give the answer. And now it just pops up again because Dan Patrick is interviewing Grant Hill before the Olympics. And what else is he going to ask him, I guess? But it's just like we understand. Again, Jaylen Brown is a better player than Derek White in any facet and really any sense of the word. That's not to take away from Derek White. Jaylen Brown is that good. He should have been an all-NBA guy this year. He was the conference finals MVP for what that's worth, and he was the NBA finals MVP, which is worth a lot. So why then does he need to be asked again? Because that's that's going to be the same answer, and it's going to start this dialogue back up again. But on the flip side, why does Jaylen Brown need to engage in it again? He feels like he's defending his honor by saying he's not a conspiracy theorist. And like, I get that in a vacuum, but Jaylen, you did say you didn't make the team because you've had problems with Nike. And whether that's true or not actually doesn't matter. Because while it may be true to the outside, that looks like a conspiracy theory. It does. Especially after the GM says it's a basketball decision. And again, a lot of us think that's bullshit. We do. But you know what I mean? Like, the Kennedy assassination still is fishy. It's still weird. But if you're saying that it was more than just Lee Harvey Oswald killing the president, you still sound like a conspiracy theorist. It is a conspiracy theory, right? No matter how much we think there's something fishy about it, it is a conspiracy theory. So to link it back to this, as much as we all believe that Jaylen Brown is a better player than Derek White, it does sound like a conspiracy theory. The Nike thing, as plausible as the Nike thing might be, it still sounds like a conspiracy theory. So the fact that this is being brought up again is like that sucks as a Celtics fan to hear because it's just one more thing that could drive a stake in this great, great team, like an all-time great team with everyone coming back. It's like, what would mess this thing up? It would be if you were able to actually make these teammates not like each other. Because as much as you wanted to say over the last few years they don't like each other, clearly that was proven incorrect. And now, weeks after they win the NBA championship, here we go again. What else is going to drive them apart? Team USA and Grant Hill picking Derek White over Jaylen Brown, a Celtic over another Celtic, and then saying that Jaylen Brown is a conspiracy theorist for thinking he didn't get picked on the team because he's been critical of Nike in the past. That's what'll do it. And it stinks because I love Jaylen Brown as a player. I really do. But it's tough to argue that he doesn't let things get to him, whether for good or for bad. Because I think early in his career, he he did kind of let it go to his head in a bad way. And even as recently as 2023, when Jason Tatum goes down in that game 7 against Miami, Brown was like using all that fuel of I've been disrespected for years. Now I'm going to prove in the biggest moment that I am the best player on this team. And he didn't play to his strengths. He put the ball on the floor too much. Miami blitzed him, and he had a terrible game. And then he gets the big contract, the biggest contract in NBA history. And again, we're thinking this could go one of two ways. He could make this, he could see this as I need to be the hero and play hero ball all season. I'm the best player on this team because I'm getting paid the most. Or he could use it as I'm the highest paid player in NBA history, and I'm going to show you why. Thankfully for Celtics fans, it was the latter, right? He said, I'm going to prove it. And by golly, he went out there and proved it. He had his best season, even better than the season he did make the All NBA team the year before. Should have been up there. And he stepped his game up even more in the postseason. A couple 40-point games. Again, conference and NBA Finals MVP. And showed it all. I mean, that defense that we thought was going to really rise up under Ime Udoka, which was good but not great, was great this year. Checking Luka the length of the floor and doing a really excellent job against him in the NBA Finals. We finally got the full product of Jaylen Brown. And now, again, with that interview he did before the finals of I don't give a shit about any of those personal accolades. It's the team accolades that I care about. The first time he gets snubbed for a personal accolade after winning the NBA championship, suddenly these things matter again. And as a Celtics fan, for the second year in a row, we have to look at this Jaylen Brown situation as it can go one of two ways. He can let this go to his head and take him out of the great habits that he got into last year that led his team to an NBA championship, with him being a huge, if not the biggest reason why. Or he can say, y'all didn't pick me for the Olympics, and I'm going to show you why this was a massive mistake. Could go one of two ways. And look, I mean, he has been a players rep VP. He was the youngest players rep VP in NBA Union history when he was like a 21-year-old. So I I don't know what that has to do with also being a conspiracy theorist. You could be a good labor union leader and also believe we didn't land on the moon. I don't think those two are mutually exclusive. But what I think the biggest takeaway for me out of this whole saga is if you look at Jaylen Brown's Wikipedia page, it's pretty obvious he wrote the personal life section himself. That's the biggest takeaway for me. Brown is primarily a vegetarian, and his interests include Spanish language, history, meditation, philosophy, soccer, and anime. Who else reporting for Wikipedia would care about that? His interests include, this is like when you take a new job and they're like, hey, we need to write a bio for you. Can you write us a few sentences about yourself? This is exactly what it is. Brown was criticized by some as, quote, too smart to play in the NBA, with some scouts worrying that he would grow tired of playing basketball and instead opt to pursue other career paths. Who the hell else is writing that but Jaylen Brown? Who else is writing that? You're too smart to play in the league. By the way, those stories did come out, right? But he's he's what, 27, 28 years old in the league. That's like not a problem anymore that he's going to leave to go play chess or an entrepreneur. Okay. Yeah, at age 22, he became the NBA PA's youngest elected vice president. In recent years, he has spoken on the importance of education and technology at Harvard, MIT, and his alma mater, Cal Berkeley. Again, Jaylen Brown is a smart guy. He's smarter than and more thoughtful than a lot of players in the NBA. But he doesn't get asked to speak at Harvard because he's smart. He gets asked to speak at Harvard because he's smart and he plays in the NBA at a very high level because he is a celebrity and he's smart. So clearly Jaylen Brown wrote that himself, which I kind of have a weird respect for. If I was in the NBA and I would still write my own Wikipedia page, maybe I would. But Jaylen, you got to get over this. It sucks, and there are a lot of people on your side, both in the media and in the fan base, and I'm sure well-connected people within the league and USA Basketball. But it's done. It's done. You keep fighting the good fight, brother, and go prove it out there on the court that you are one of the 12 best players in the United States and that you are one of the 15 best players in the NBA and make another All-NBA team. And prove that you're one of the few that can do it at the highest level in the most pressure-packed moments and win another championship. Because once you have all those accolades, no one gives a shit. Because I know this is a part of a story with this historic team, but nobody really gives a shit of Isaiah Thomas's legacy because he didn't make the dream team. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best point guards ever, and he won back-to-back NBA championships, and he carried his teams there. At the end of the day, nobody cares that he didn't make the dream team. Really. But Jaylen Brown might not be the only Celtic who has now a gripe with Team USA. All that and more coming up with the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network.
We are Rogue Media Sports.